Greetings Zimbabwe, Africa and the world. I want to take this opportunity to officially welcome you to the National Association of Non-Governmental Organizations NANGO TV channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. On this channel, we are going to be sharing reviews, analysis of policies and laws, emerging issues and developments which have an impact on CSO's operation and the general citizenry, participation, and so much more. The videos will fall under the Development Watch TV series, which is a brainchild of our bi-weekly newsletter, Development Watch.
Today we are going to discuss about a very critical issue that we just want to share with our viewers and the rest of the world. But before we get straight to the discussion, I just want to welcome you, Mr. Manshara, to this NANGO TV series. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nyimai. It is always a pleasure, for us to engage in these discussions as we continue, to unravel some of the key development issues that the general people of Zimbabwe need to be aware of. And I hope even that today's discussion is going to bring forth new information to the viewers. Thank you so much.
Yes, today we have a very interesting subject that we want Mr. Manshara to assist us in sharing some of the critical information that the communities, the civil society, the stakeholders, the development partners would want to hear. So today we are discussing about the Global Week of Action for the Sustainable Development Goals from the 17th of September to 2018 to 28 September. We call it a Global Week of Action, and I think the global a call for action against poverty, the GCAP, is mobilizing various civil society organizations. And NANGO, being a member of GCAP, I am sure there is quite a lot that is expected from us in terms of mobilizing the communities, national mobilization, looking at either the communities, the government, and also the development partners to share and send messages around the issues of global around the issues of sustainable development goals. But before we go straight to the nitty-gritties of this time's Global Week of Action, I would want Mr. Mashara to give us just an overview of what the Global Week of Action is all about and what does it entail for civil society, for communities, and for stakeholders.
Yes, as you are aware, Mr. Nyimai, that the year 2015, in the month of September, that's when the member states that are signatory to the Sustainable Development Goals adopted this ambitious, program of plan that is some critical, goals that as nations they need to meet by the year 2030. And every year in the month of September at the UN General Assembly, member states they meet to discuss, progress that the countries are making with regards to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, which, to my assessment, it's a great, development framework that touches on the key aspects of development, leaving no one behind. So in that regard, you see that this agenda is supposed to put the furthest behind first, or what is called leave no one behind. And what does that mean? It means that as the general public, the vulnerable community, and the disenfranchised group should play a pivotal role in terms of defining, the path that the country is making towards developing programs and policies that need to then contribute towards ending, hunger, ending poverty, and ensuring that there is a green economy, and also the upholding and promotion of human rights, and also issues to do with building strong, inclusive economy. So it means that we need to embrace the voices, we need to embrace, the groups that are hit hard by the issues of poverty that you are talking about. So in this week and also this month, as civil society organizations, we are mobilizing voices, we are mobilizing communities to engage the policymakers, to engage the government, so that they put in place, programs that will then assist in the attainment of the sustainable development goals.
Okay, coming to the Global Week of Action. This time around, it's mainly centered on three pillars: healthy, green, and just. So we just want to hear from you, especially around the first one on healthy, where we are talking, there is so much talk of vaccines for all. What do you think? I think also for countries like Zimbabwe, there is really some commendable progress in terms of the vaccination program rolling out. But in this week of Global Week of Action, and also with bearing in mind what you have just said, that the furthest behind first. What do you think in Zimbabwe are the key issues around the vaccines for all, and also just looking at the health and well-being of people? What key messages can we look forward to hear from civil society organizations in Zimbabwe in this Global Week of Action?
Yes, the issue of health is highlighted as one of the key pillars towards the mobilization and the voices that we are amplifying as a civil society organization in other non-state actors, as we engage the government this year. And this is coming on the work of the implication of the impact of COVID-19, even across the healthy development, the health infrastructure, and also its spiral effect to the broader, performance of the economy. And you would see that the advent of COVID-19 further marginalized even the poor in the societies, and in that regard, access to social services, access to social protection, and also access to livelihood programs has been made, worse during the period of COVID-19. And in that regard, the movement of civil society organization now is putting, a strong message to the government and the policymakers to say we need to make sure that we put a robust system that enhances, the capacity of the country to respond to COVID-19, but with particular, focus to the furthest, so that at least they receive, the assistance, they receive the services first, because already they are marginalized. So in that regard, access to vaccines, if you look even into the distribution of vaccines within the country, we had the so-called, frontline health workers and also other frontline workers who received the vaccine first, ahead of the vulnerable, ahead of the marginalized. So the call is to say, I think we need to make sure that in whatever intervention that the government is doing, we are putting the furthest first, we are putting the poor first. It is the poor that need to have access to some of these services. And also looking at the issue of universal health coverage, because during this period of COVID-19, it also has some other implications, not only with regards to COVID-19, but other, health issues. You talk about malaria, you talk about TB, you talk about even the non-communicable diseases. And during this period, we also noticed that there was also huge, challenges to access to medication because of some of the restrictive measures that were brought about by the legislations that the country had to put in place to mitigate, the issues of the spread of COVID-19. So in that regard, we are saying, as civil society organizations, the government has to pronounce some of these policy, positions, but in the framework, of the poor, it's I think taking the center stage in terms of the interventions.
Yes. We continue to say vaccines for all, especially putting the furthest behind first. So thank you very much for your submission. I think issues of universal health coverage is one of the key principles which are embedded in the Sustainable Development Goals. And I liked the fact that even in the civil society at the global level, we see that initiative to take leadership in terms of advancing healthier lives and also the well-being of individuals. And maybe to also touch on other health aspects. You mentioned about other diseases, chronic diseases, non-communicable diseases, other diseases like TB and malaria, but and also maybe to look at even the mental health. I think COVID-19 has been a timely reminder to us that we need to invest in mental health, in psychosocial support and counseling services. Now, going to the other aspect of green, where we are looking at trying to reduce the carbon emissions. And I think for developing countries like Zimbabwe, there is really a lot which is happening in terms of advancing our technology, trying to advance industrialization. And but we have seen that in Zimbabwe, 70% of the population are living in rural areas, and there is nothing much that is being done to try to harness the role of women and other key players at community level, especially in the rural areas, in terms of trying to assist in combating climate change. We have the Sustainable Development number 13, which talks about efforts to combat climate change. What kind of message can you say or can you amplify to the government and policymakers around issues of green governance, issues of environmental protection, and issues of combating climate change in this global week of action?
Yes, I think the issues of climate change are very key because the implications of climate change, we are seeing them, we are feeling them, and I think we also noticed Cyclone Idai, and in Zimbabwe at some point of time we have been experiencing a prolonged or intermittent, droughts in our country, and even some of the heat waves that we're also, experiencing also as a country. So it's clearly evident that the impact of climate change, we are feeling it, we are living it, and they are between us. So in that regard, we are saying that going ahead, now the development trajectory that we need to be pushing as non-state actors, as the government, is supposed to be development that is supposed to have sensitive, to climate change. And what are we saying? We need to have climate proofing, development, which is taking into account the need to ensure that we are not continuously emitting, the carbon emissions. So we need to cut down in terms of carbon emission. We also need to cut down in terms of deforestation of our forests, because they are playing a pivotal role to safeguard, I think the ozone layer depletion. So in that regard, like what you're saying, I think women and children also play a pivotal role towards safeguarding, the environment, and also government has to put in place, policies that then promote, the safeguarding of the environment, and also some of the development, processes that are taken by the government. They need also to put in place a mechanism that also ensures that the public or the general citizen will not continue to deplete the environment. Like what are we talking about? Issues to do with even the rural electrification program, so that women and the children in the rural areas will not continue to depend on energy using the firewood, which we know that it also then contributes towards deforestation, and we could also see loss even of productive, land because of such kind of practices. So the government need to make sure that, I think, Zimbabwe, we have a clear climate change policy that embraces even the people that are in the marginalized communities, and even the private sector. They need also to start to think green. Even the way that they are doing their production, they need also to start to think green. So in that regard, we need to embrace also the private sector in this agenda of making sure that we work together to protect and to promote, climate resilience. And for that to happen, I think it's supposed to be embedded in each and every one, because the issue of good stewardship of the environment is something that needs to be in each and every person, mental capacities. And what are we saying? It means even children at the tender age they need to be schooled, they need to be educated in terms of the importance of protecting the environment, so that we continue to safeguard the environment together.
Yes, quite interesting. I think you have quite raised the critical issues where you talk about climate proofing agriculture systems. I think for countries like Zimbabwe, we are mainly dependent on agriculture as one of the key enablers of our economic growth and development. And we really needed to invest to strike a balance while we are advancing our agriculture systems, but also to make sure that in a way we are protecting and have a prudent stewardship of the natural resources which we have and the environment. And you also then mentioned about issues of renewable energy. I think we also then start to think about how do we take advantage of other resources like solar, so that at least we have renewable sources of energy, and we have renewable forms of energy across, not only for rural areas but even in urban areas. I think these are quite critical issues, and I think in this global week of action, this is going to be interesting. These are some of the messages that you can't just hear in usual times, but in this global week of action, we are going to hear more about some of these things. And then going into the third aspect of just, where we are now looking at leave no one behind in its totality, looking at the issues of inequalities, issues of even protection of civil rights. What are the key issues and concerns, and even some of the recommendations that you would do, say for countries like Zimbabwe, the civil society should amplify to the government around issues of protecting the civil rights, and also to create an enabling environment for civic engagement?
Yes, I think when we're looking at the issue of when we're talking about the just, system, I think two important aspects that the Global Week of Action is put in the forefront. One is to do with the issue of social contract, and also to do with the issues of promotion, protection, and fulfillment of human rights. So, in terms of social contract, we know that nations and also individuals at various levels have been impacted in different ways, with the issue of COVID-19. And in that regard, as we strive to build back better, it means we need to also sacrifice and forego some of the satisfaction or utilities that we may decide to enjoy today, only for us to be able to build a resilient economy, and also make sure that we are back in terms of the terrain or the trail that we need to follow as we engineer, robust economic growth and development. And in that regard, it means that even the government needs also to then create a platform to engage the different stakeholders, and have a win-win, package, where the government is going to forgo something, and also the public is also going to forgo something. Then we have a workable social contract that will assist us, to go forward as a country, to go forward as a unity, if we want to really, achieve sustainable development and to meet the sustainable development goals by 2030. So I think at this juncture you realize that we need to work together and have a vision that is driving, the agenda of the different communities. We may differ on many other issues, but when it comes to addressing the major challenges that we face as a country, I think we need to be able to work together and assist, the country to go back towards, I think, the level that we're also known as the breadbasket, of Southern Africa, and even the infrastructure that we had. It was, a very magical great. So I think those are some of the issues that we need to be looking at during this global, week of action. Then coming to the issues of human rights, it is very, very important to note that a conducive, a governance framework is pivotal for us to be able to achieve sustainable development. And what are we saying? we need to make sure that as a country, we are observing, we are promoting, and we are facilitating the progressive realization of the different rights that the communities and the citizens of Zimbabwe are supposed to be enjoying, and the freedoms that the citizens of Zimbabwe are supposed to be having. So, freedom and human rights are pivotal, for any society, for any country, if we want to achieve sustainable development. We talk about issues of democracy. I think this is the era that we need to make sure that we are living and promoting the principles of democracy. And this can assist even in boosting, the investor confidence. They can also, play a pivotal role even of enticing even the general public to pay even the taxes, which is important for us as a country to make sure that we grow the government revenue. I think, as you are aware, that the era of the sustainable development goals, one of the key pillars that is important or paramount to the achievement of SDGs is the harnessing of domestic resources to support the implementation of programs that will assist in the achievement of the sustainable development goals. So that is the message that we are going to be putting across even the whole nation, even across even the provinces, across even the continent, and also at the global level. Is you are aware that you've said that through the global call to action against poverty and also action for sustainable development goals, we are partnering each other to make sure that the people's assembly, the people's voice, find its way to the decision makers table to influence the process is going forward.
Yeah. Rebuilding the social contract. I think this is quite interesting, and I think this is also in line with the global call to ensure that there is social accountability, strengthening transparency and accountability. You also talked about issues of resources. I think this is quite interesting, and indeed, the government should play its role to protect, to facilitate, and to ensure fulfillment of the rights by all. And I think you also then mentioned about critical issues of making sure that democracy and good governance becomes an integral part of each and every intervention, program, policy, and every work that we do as countries, as governments, or as civil society. I think at this juncture, maybe the last question that I would want to hear from you, you mentioned about the critical partnership that you have with the global call to action against poverty, the action for SDGs, making sure that there is national mobilization, there is people assembly, harnessing and amplifying the voice of the people. So I would want to hear now, what is the plan? What could we expect from the broader civil society, from NANGO through the leadership of NANGO? What should we expect during this week, this global week, on effect during this month of September, which is more like the month of action against towards the attainment of sustainable development goals. So, can you just briefly share with us some of the key plan of action, or some of the interventions, or even the events that you are going to conduct as NANGO with the broader civil society in Zimbabwe?
Right. So the month of September is going to be a key month for NANGO because we have lined up a lot of activities, even starting from next week, where we are now revamping and also reviving our action towards mobilizing, the people right from the communities. Because already, NANGO, we have some engagement that we have done by people with people in the different communities, even going to the periphery, to the hard to reach areas. So our belief and our thinking and our philosophy as NANGO is that we need to ensure that the leave no one behind the principle, it ceases to be just words, but it's something that we need to make sure that it's operational. So we are engaging communities. We are also, ensuring that the voices and the aspirations of the communities are going to take prime, responsibilities towards this whole agenda. So we are going to be having people's assembly at lower level. Then we are also going to be creating platforms where the government is going to engage with the community representatives who are going to come and present their aspirations to the government, and we are going to be targeting the Ministry of Public Service, Labor and Social Welfare, where we have already drafted a letter that is clearly articulated, like the three pillars that we're talking about in terms of healthy, in terms of the green economy, and also in terms of the just society. So we've laid out our key demands that we feel need also to be interrogated, and also to engage the government on. And I think between the week 17 to 28, we are going to be having activities each and every day, where we have lined up activities that we are going to be engaging our different sectors. As NANGO, we are going to be engaging the women's sector, we are going to be engaging the youth, the children, and the disability sector. And we know that these are the groups that in most cases are left out and left behind when it comes to issues to do with that development. Even their voices are also not taken on board during this process. So there are a lot of activities that we are going to be lining up, thanks to GCAP and the Action for SDGs, who have given us this platform, and also site savers who are also coming on board to ensure that the aspect of the disabilities, they take prime importance even in this discourse. So I want to urge even the non-state actors, and also to urge the community, that we need to work together. We need to come together even through during this whole month, so that we collaborate, we amplify our voices, and whatever position we are going to engage the government on is supposed to be a position that is emanating from the people.
Oh, wow, 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 wow. For sure, in solidarity we stand.
Yes.
I think you really, it was precise, it was short, but quite comprehensive. There is quite a lot, and I'm sure this could not be exhaustive or enough. We really need to hear more throughout this month of September, as you have rightfully said. There is quite a number of actions that we would expect, and I also like that you are sharing with the broader global society. This is not only for Zimbabwe, but it's a global call to action. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you for following through with the discussions. We hope it was educative, informative, and simple to understand to you, our viewers. NANGO will be sharing more of these critical issues in the following series. Like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell to keep yourselves updated on what content is coming next on this channel.